far beyond the edges of our solar system. At a place where sunlight is only a memory and the wind of the sun fades into the cold breath of interstellar space, humanity has built its most ambitious eye. The Helios Apex Station, a solar, gravitational lens array parked 650 astronomical units from Earth. Its purpose, to peer across the darkness and reveal the secrets of distant worlds. For years, it watched in silence. Until one day, a signal arrived. A signal that carried not just images, but a choice. One that could unite two civilizations, or ignite a war that spans the stars. Xtoforn, Helios Apex Station, 650 AU from Earth, the edge of the sun's fading breath. Beyond Pluto's dark trail, where sunlight is no more than a faint memory, the Helios Apex Station drifted in silence. Its long truss arms glinted with a cold, distant shimmer as the vast SGL array core rotated toward the focus point, a speck of starlight 11.9 light-years away. Dr. Alara Vance sat in the command cradle, eyes locked on the spectrum. Feeds. Out here, shifts lasted weeks. The only sound was the low hum of thermal pumps and the muted click of relay switches, a single alert tone cut through the quiet. Not an anomaly warning. Not an instrument error. A data handshake. Flagged. Priority 1. Ilara's fingers flew across the console. "Control, this is Apex," she said, her voice calm but tight. "We have an unscheduled packet inbound, encryption header, non-standard." Static filled the comm link before the relay to Aurora Ridge crackled back. "Copy, Apex. Confirm. Data stream and buffer to secure channel." The stream arrived in fragments. Each fragment sharpened as quanta-cipher keys decrypted layer after layer. A shape emerged on the central hollow. Blurred edges at first, then defined lines, then mass. It was a vessel, not human. Angular hull, segmented armor, engine plumes too, hot for chemical, too narrow for standard fusion. Her breath caught. She magnified the image until the hull markings resolved into a crimson arc, a military insignia she'd only seen in xenology briefings. Red Halo Fleet. She whispered it without meaning to. The name carried weight. The war arm of the consortium of Tau, a civilization most humans knew only from deep scan reports and old diplomatic logs. Ilara opened a channel. "Kyle, I need you on command deck. Now!" Footsteps on metal grating came minutes later. Dr. Kyle Ryan, hair still damp from the station's recycled shower mist, stepped in. "What is it?" She pointed to the image. He froze. "That's a Red Halo warship. Orbiting Tau Ceti A," she said. 300 kilometers above, Vallis Prime, directly over their capital. Kale leaned closer. His voice dropped. "Why would they be there now? The last intel put them in ceasefire talks. The data feed kept unspooling. The warship wasn't alone. Formations slid into view. Carrier-class frames, flanking escorts, a lattice of defense satellites. On the side monitor, transmission metadata flashed. Source, SGL primary mode, unknown backscatter. Path, photon return Alara's pulse quickened. "They're not just broadcasting out, they're sending back," she said. Kale turned to her. "You're telling me this is two-way?" She nodded once. The magnitude of it hit them both. The photon backscatter channel was theoretical, a way to bend the solar gravitational lens into a return link. It meant whoever was on Tau Ceti E knew exactly where the observation point was. On her peripheral screen, the link timer showed 38 minutes remaining before the feed decayed. Into the noise floor, Kale spoke in short bursts. "We have to forward this. All of it. No delay." "I'll patch Aurora Ridge," she said, fingers moving fast. "But once it's downlink, it's not ours anymore." For a long second, neither of them spoke. The hollows showed alien warships. sliding into geosynchronous formation over a world oceans away, a world that until now had been only a study subject. Her headset chimed with a priority override. The clipped voice of Director Maya Chen filled the channel. Apex, this is Control. We're initiating a Level 0 council session. You are to prepare all data for immediate secure relay to both UDSO and Earth Strategic Command. Repeat, both. Ilara glanced at Kale. He raised an eyebrow. Both sides? That's going to get messy. She didn't answer. She simply increased the image resolution one last step. And there it was. The cold gleam of hull plates under Tau Cetis. White sun, the faint swirl of storm systems below. Far away? Yes, but not far enough. 6:58. United Deep Space Observatory Central Council. Secure link from Helios Apex Station. The conference wall in Ilara's quarters lit with 12 small windows, faces from every major branch of the United Deep Space. Observatory and the stern profiles of Earth Strategic Command officers. The UDSO crest glowed in blue on one side. The ESC emblem burned in deep red on the other. Director Maya Chen spoke first. Dr. Vance, Dr. Rian, you've both reviewed the packet? Yes, Ilara replied. Visual confirmation. Multiple red halo fleet vessels over Vallis Prime. Stationary orbit. Formation suggests preparation for planetary engagement. A ripple moved across the screens. The ESC delegate leaned forward. Admiral Rourke Strath, uniform sharp as a blade. And you're certain the images are authentic? Kale's voice was steady. The quanta cipher keys validate every frame. There's no doubt. Then we keep this classified, Strath said flatly. Level black, no public release, no interagency chatter outside this council. Maya's eyes narrowed. With respect, Admiral, UDSO's mandate is transparency. If another civilization is on the brink of war, then it's their war, Strath cut in. We don't intervene. We don't invite them to notice us. They already have, Ilara said quietly. All eyes shifted to her. The transmission came through a photon backscatter channel. They know exactly where our observation point is. A silence fell. The kind that changes a room. Maya broke it. That means Tau Ceti E has the capability to respond, possibly initiate contact. Strath's tone hardened. Or target us, which is why this stays contained. Kaya leaned forward. If the signal is intentional, ignoring it could be read as hostility. And answering it, Strath countered, could be read as an invitation to bring their war to our doorstep. The debate rose, voices overlapping, policy lines drawn. UDSO scientists pushed for analysis and open review. ESC officers pressed for military assessment, containment, and asset readiness at Orbital Bastion 4. Through it all, Ilara kept her gaze on the frozen hollow feed of the alien fleet. Silent, waiting. Finally, Maya spoke over the noise. Enough. We'll table the decision until the second packet arrives. Apex. Maintain continuous observation. Encrypt everything. Dual streams to both command centers. Meeting adjourned. The screens went dark, leaving Ilara and Kyle alone with the hum of the station. Kyle exhaled. You know they're both wrong, right? She didn't answer. Outside, the viewport, the black stretched forever. And somewhere within it, the second packet was already on its way. 7:43. Helios Apex Station, Command Deck. The deck was dimmed to preserve night cycle. Only the soft blue arcs of status lights pulsed across the consoles. Ilara sat alone, reviewing frame-by-frame telemetry from the first packet. Kyle had gone to run spectral analysis in Lab 2. The alert hit like a pulse of cold air. Data link. Established. Priority 1. She tapped the console. Aurora Ridge, this is Apex. Confirming. Second packet inbound. The reply came quick. Copy, Apex. Maintain isolation. Routing full stream to your command deck first. Her heart rate, jumped. Protocol said simultaneous distribution to UDSO and ESC. This wasn't simultaneous. This was filtered. The first frames resolved slowly, building from noise into form. Not hulls this time, not a fleet, a face. At first it was grainy, a suggestion of eyes, the curve of a jaw, shadow breaking over alien features. Then the image sharpened. High cheek ridges, deep-set silver eyes, and a line of ceremonial etching running from temple to jawline. Kyle's voice startled her over the comm. Ilara, tell me you're seeing this. I see it, she said. The aliens. Gaze was fixed directly on the SGL receiver. Not wandering, not accidental. As if he knew exactly where to look. Metadata flickered in the corner. ID. Commander Lise Harvek. Affiliation. Consortium of Tau. Defense Command KL arrived at her shoulder. Breath quick. That's military command rank. Defense strategist? Maybe fleet operations? Ilara leaned in. The resolution was so fine she could see condensation along his environmental visor. His mouth moved slightly, though the transmission carried no audio. Run lip pattern, she said. Kale keyed it in. The AI parser scrolled. The result printed in Terran script. Help us. Stop them. They both stared. Kale broke the silence. That's a distress call. Or a trap, Ilara replied. The image cut to black for 3 seconds, then returned, showing background details. A war room. Displays behind him marked fleet positions, red vectors converging on Valis Prime. This isn't just a warning, Kale murmured. It's a briefing. He's showing us the attack plan. Another message flashed. Photon backscatter channel stable for 19 minutes. Kale's hands hovered over the comm controls. We could send something back, even a ping. Without authorization, that's a court-martial, she said. He met her eyes. And if we wait for authorization? Neither spoke. The image of Lise Harvek held steady, the alien's silver eyes unblinking, as if willing them to act. Ilara's headset chimed. A triple-tone override. Admiral Rourke Strath's voice filled the deck. Apex, this is ESC command. Halt all. Transmission. Lock the packet to military encryption. No distribution outside ESC channels. Seconds later, Director Maya Chen cut in on the same feed. Apex, disregard that. Route full packet to UDSO servers immediately. 2 orders. Opposite. Directives. Both marked Priority Alpha. Kale looked at her. You have to choose. Ilara's hand hovered over the routing controls. Outside, the station's antenna rotated, locking harder onto the invisible focal point beyond the sun. The backscatter signal's countdown ticked lower. 17 minutes, and the alien commander was still staring right at her. 12. Helios. Apex Station, Analysis Lab. The lab smelled faintly of ozone from the cooling grids. Holographic panes floated above the main table, each showing a different slice of the incoming signal. Ilara zoomed in on the waveform stack. Look at the phase reversal here. Every 22 milliseconds, we're getting a microburst in the opposite direction. KL adjusted the filter overlay. Backscatter confirmation? Beyond confirmation, she said. This is intentional modulation. They're shaping the return photons with high-order wavefront control, using the SGL focal plane like a mirror. She swiped to a schematic of the SGL array core. The diagram spun slowly, showing the massive parabolic segments and the precision thruster pods that kept the array locked on the sun's gravitational focus. Kyle frowned. But that's only possible if they know our exact alignment tolerances. They do, Ilara replied. The error margin here? 2 nanoradians. That's tighter than our own tracking AI. He stared at the data for a long moment. Which means they've either reverse-engineered our observational profile, or they've done this before. A fresh set of readings scrolled in from the telemetry cluster. Ilara's eyes narrowed. There's more. Signal-to-noise ratio is higher. On the return than the outbound. They're compensating for the solar corona's distortion better than we are. Kyle almost laughed. So, we're looking at them through the most powerful lens in the solar system, and they're looking back through a better one. She didn't smile. It also means the channel is stable enough to carry more than images. We're talking compressed data blocks, encrypted, possibly schematics, or targeting coordinates. Kale's voice dropped. If those coordinates are for us, then the first target would be right here, she finished. Silence settled. For a moment, the only sound was the faint tick of the lab's thermal regulator. Ilara locked the feed into a secure sandbox, isolating it from the station's primary network. I want a full spectral decomposition, every frequency layer. If there's embedded code, I want it out, Kale nodded. And if we find it, then we'll know if Commander Harvek is asking for help or setting the bait. Outside the viewport, the sun was nothing more than a pale ember, and beyond it, the thin, invisible line of photons stretched toward Tau Ceti E, a thread, connecting two worlds on the edge of war. 8:49. Helios Apex Station, command deck. The deck lights flickered, once, twice, then stabilized. Ilara glanced at the power readout. That's odd. Auxiliary reactor output just dropped by 8%. Kale checked the diagnostics. No maintenance scheduled, no load spikes. The drop became a dip, then a steady drain. On the hollow, subsystem icons shifted from green to amber. Routing logs, Ilara ordered. Her fingers flew over the A console. The response time lagged, as if the system was thinking before answering. Finally, a string of code scrolled up. Unauthorized, remote origin. Source, unknown. Kale's voice was tight. That's not coming from UDSO or ESC. The auxiliary reactor shuddered again, output sliding to 70%. The amber icons turned red. Then a new window flashed over their screens, not from any station control they knew. Black background, white numerals. 14:59, the numbers began to tick down. Ilara felt her pulse sink with each second. Whatever this is, it's already inside the power grid. Kyle looked at her. If we lose, auxiliary, the SGL array core goes cold. And so does the channel, she said. The countdown hit 14:37. They were no longer just observing Tau Ceti E. Someone, or something, was now watching them back. 9:17. Helios Apex Station, 650 AU from Earth. Solar wind boundary, the E. Inbound traffic board was clear. No scheduled arrivals, no maintenance flights, no supply drones, which is why the blip felt like a punch in the chest. Ilara stared at the trajectory display. A single icon, military designation, Earth Strategic Command, had just shifted course. No request, no handshake, no orbital clearance. The ID tag scrolled across her screen. Grav Sail Courier, ESC Registry. Propelled by solar sail and high-efficiency ion thrust, it could make course changes that heavier ships couldn't dream of. She tapped the comm. "Kyle, get to command now!" His voice crackled back. "What's going on? We've got incoming." "Military courier? No flight plan?" Footsteps echoed down the central spine. Kyle arrived, still holding a tablet cluttered with spectral charts. He leaned over her shoulder. "That's close," he murmured. "Vector intercept in what, 40 minutes?" 35, she corrected. "And that's if they break." The board lit with proximity predictions, arcs converging on Helios Apex. Ilara patched to Aurora Ridge. "Control Apex. We have an unscheduled ESC courier on direct approach, requesting confirmation of mission profile." A pause, then static. No verbal response, only a system ping acknowledging receipt. Kyle frowned. "They're not telling us why. On the display, the courier's sail unfurled wider, a maneuver to catch the last usable sunlight this far out. Thin, silver membranes tens of meters across, reflecting like ice against the black. They're pushing for maximum decel, Alara said, which means they want to stop right here. Kyle's tone sharpened. Or dock. She brought up the station's defensive status. Aegis Sentinel drones were on standby, weapons cold, per UDSO ESC treaty. Any activation would require dual authorization. In theory. The comm light blinked. An encrypted packet arrived, ESC Milcom Level 3. Alara decrypted with station keys. The message was one line. Stand by for boarding protocols. Kale exhaled. Slowly. Boarding? They're treating us like a compromised asset. She kept her voice even. Or they want physical custody of the data? In the viewport, the courier grew brighter, its hull geometry resolving, compact, armored, with docking ports already extended. It wasn't a supply ship. It was a delivery system for personnel. Kale spoke in short bursts. This is connected to the backscatter signal. Strath wants the station under his flag. Alara didn't argue. The timing was too perfect. After the second packet. After the image of Commander Lise Harvek. Now this. The courier's course. Plot updated. ETA 2742. Aurora Ridge pinged again, this time from Director Maya Chen's secure channel. Apex, hold position. Do not grant docking until UDSO oversight is present. Repeat, do not grant docking. Kale looked at her. Two conflicting orders again. Ilara's jaw tightened. If we follow ESC, we lose the station. If we follow UDSO, we risk a military standoff at our own airlock. Outside, the courier's sail caught a stray shaft of sunlight, flaring white before it folded in on itself. Transition to final ion thrust. ETA dropped to 2403, the quiet between. Them felt heavier than the vacuum beyond the hull. This wasn't a visit. It was a move in a game neither of them controlled, and the clock was already running. 9:42, Secure Interlink Conference, Helios Apex Station to Earth. The comm wall split into two banners, blue for United Deep Space, Observatory, red for Earth Strategic Command. Dozens of windows lit up with faces, scientists, analysts, officers, and political envoys. Director Maya Chen opened the session. Her voice was cool but firm. Admiral Strath, your courier has altered. Course toward Apex without UDSO authorization? Explain. On the opposite banner, Admiral Rourke Strath leaned into the feed, eyes sharp under the hard lines of his cap. I don't require UDSO authorization. The station is a joint asset. ESC has the right to secure it if operational integrity is in question. Maya's tone cut like glass. Operational integrity is intact. What you're attempting is seizure. Strath didn't blink. I'm preventing loss. That signal you intercepted, the second packet, could compromise Earth's security if it falls into the wrong hands. Kyle, seated beside Alara on the Apex feed, spoke up. The wrong hands being anyone outside ESC? Strath's jaw flexed. You're a linguist, doctor, not a security officer. Stay in your lane, Maya interjected. We have protocols, joint review, shared custody of all deep space transmissions. This was the foundation of Project Eventide. And Project Eventide, Strath said, was never intended to give alien powers a direct link into our observation platforms. Which is exactly why, Maya countered. We need full transparency. Hiding this risks misunderstanding. Or worse, escalation. The red banner flickered as another ESC officer joined in. Transparency doesn't stop a kinetic strike, Director. Preemption does. The voices began to overlap. Accusations, counter-accusations, half-cut sentences. Some faces in the windows avoided eye contact. Others leaned forward, fueled by the argument. Ilara muted the volume for a moment, letting the chaos go silent in her headset. She whispered to Kale. They're not talking about science anymore. This is about ownership. Kale's eyes stayed on the screen. Ownership of the station. Ownership of the signal. And probably ownership of whatever comes next. Maya's voice spiked through the unmute. I will not authorize a unilateral docking. If you proceed, Admiral, you will trigger a breach of treaty. Strath's reply was steel. Then prepare for the consequences, Director. ESC will not stand by while UDSO invites an unknown military into our backyard. The feed froze for a heartbeat as the secure link resynced across the vast distance. Then both banners went dark, leaving the Apex command deck bathed in the soft glow of status lights. Kale broke the silence. That went well. Ilara didn't answer. The courier's ETA had just ticked under 20 minutes. And somewhere out there in the empty gulf between the stars, the backscatter channel still hummed. Waiting. 10, Zo 3, Helios Apex Station, external sensor deck. The sensor array lit with a warning overlay. A new contact had entered the outer defense perimeter. Small, unarmed, standard observation drone. UDSO registry. Kale was at the console. It's one of ours. Model DS-47, probably here to document the courier's approach. Ilara nodded, scanning the telemetry. Low speed, safe trajectory, no threat profile. The drone glided across the black, its sensor mast catching the faint gleam of distant sunlight. Everything about its vector screamed routine. Then the defense status bar flashed amber. Kyle frowned. Why is the Aegis network waking up? Before she could answer, the perimeter drones detached from their holding positions around the station. 6 Aegis Sentinel drones fanning out like silent predators. Who authorized this? Ilara demanded, slapping the comm. Aurora Ridge, Apex. We have unscheduled Aegis activation. Confirm override source. Static. No reply. The first Aegis drone rotated, bringing its emitter arm to bear on the DS-47. A beam of focused particle. Fire erupted. A clean, surgical lance. The observation drone's hull flared white, split in two, and vanished into a spray of molten fragments. Kale stared at the tactical display. It just destroyed our own asset. Ilara's hands flew across the console. Shutting down Aegis control, now. Access denied. Control locked. Override channel 0X7F. That's impossible, she muttered. Channel 0 isn't even on the operations tree. It's a hardware-level route. Another alert pinged. The fragments of the DS-47 were drifting dangerously, close to the SGL array core's sensor line. Kale leaned over the console, his voice low. Someone's in our command systems, Ilara, and it's not ESC or UDSO. Her eyes met his. Then who the hell is it? They pulled up the log feed. The activation timestamp matched the exact moment the courier's sail began its final fold. Maneuver. Coincidence or coordination. Ilara expanded the data trace. The origin path was obfuscated, bouncing through redundant nodes in the station's maintenance subnet. A network never meant to be connected to defense control. Kyle's fingers danced over the encryption filter. Hold on. There's a residual signature here. Power fluctuation pattern, identical to the auxiliary drain from yesterday. Her pulse quickened. The same entity that planted the countdown. Meaning, Kale said, whoever it is, they can weaponize anything on this station. Through the viewport, the surviving Aegis drones slowly returned to standby, as if nothing had happened. The debris from the DS-47 continued to drift, spinning lazily in the faint sunlight. Aurora Ridge finally broke the silence over the comm. Director Maya Chen's voice was clipped. Apex, report status. We lost visual feed from your DS-47. Ilara's reply was cold. Destroyed by our own defense grid, without our authorization. A pause. Then, was ESC in your command channel? No, Ilara said, and that's the problem. Kale muted the comm. We're being manipulated. Escalation between ESC and UDSO. That's the goal. Push them into conflict. Make them too busy to notice what's really happening. Ilara looked back at the tactical plot. At the couriers. Icon closing in fast. ETA 1219. Whoever had pulled the trigger on the DS-47 had just raised the stakes. And now, the players were moving into position. 31. Helios Apex Station. Data Analysis Bay. The debris from the destroyed DS-47 had barely cleared the station's sensor range when Kale dumped the last intact frame into the analysis buffer. This was from the drone's optical feed, he said. Right before the Aegis took the shot. The hollow expanded in front of them, an image of empty black, studded with faint stars, and the shimmering halo of the SGL focal point. Ilara frowned. Nothing unusual. Low light scatter. Standard compression artifacts. Kale tapped a sequence. Until you look here. A thin band of data ran along the image's luminance curve, barely visible unless you knew where to look. She leaned closer. That's not random noise. No, he said. It's amplitude modulation on the pixel intensity, layered into the image stream. Someone piggybacked a signal inside the feed. He ran it through a demodulator. The band unraveled into a waveform, rhythmic, deliberate. Her eyes narrowed. That's a language pattern. Kyle brought up a translation matrix pulling from the UDSO Xenolinguistics library. Slowly, glyphs appeared on the hollow, each shaped with the angular precision of consortium of Tau script. The text resolved into Terran characters: aid required, Valus Prime under siege, Red Halo fleet will strike. Trust Harvek, Ilara's breath caught. It's him, Commander Liss Harvek, Kale nodded. He hid it in the feed so only we'd find it. That means he knows ESC won't share. And he knows we're the only ones who might act, she said quietly. They stared at the glyphs in silence. It wasn't just a distress call, it was strategic, direct intelligence from inside the enemy's command structure. Kale finally spoke. We send this to UDSO, Strath locks the station down. We send it to ESC, Maya accuses us of selling out. Either way, we're the fuse, Ilara finished. Another alert chimed, not from their consoles, but from the station's central clock. The courier's ETA had dropped under 9 minutes. Kale looked at her. We don't have time for consensus. We choose, or someone else chooses for us. Ilara's gaze lingered on the glowing glyphs. Outside, the courier's approach vector burned bright in the dark, a spear of light cutting toward Helios Apex. Ta-52, Helios Apex Station, Command Deck. The comm light flared crimson, ESC Milcom. Level 1. Ilara opened the channel. A male voice came through, clipped and formal. Apex, this is Orbital Bastion 4. Be advised, boarding team en route, commanded by Lieutenant Orion Vesk. Mission designation, protective custody. Kyle shot her a look. Protective custody of what? No answer. The channel closed with a single encrypted ping. Ilara pulled up the tactical feed. The courier was in breaking burn, its ion plume glowing like a white dagger against the black. Docking arms were already extended. Behind its armored nose, she could make out the outlines of EVA pods, fast, maneuverable, and armed. Kyle's voice was low. They're not here for inspection. They're here to take the station. Ilara said nothing. Her eyes tracked the EVA pods as they detached in sequence, drifting forward before igniting microthrusters. 8 figures in matte black exosuits, moving in tight formation, each suit bearing the insignia of Earth Strategic Command. The station's internal sensors flagged them as friendly. Her instincts didn't ETA to docking. IL-4, 12, 11, 08. Helios Apex Station Signal Processing Bay. The last burst from the photon backscatter channel sat locked in the secure buffer, unplayed. It had arrived 2 hours ago, right in the middle of the political firestorm. Now, with the courier from Orbital Bastion 4 still minutes from docking, Ilara keyed in the decrypt sequence. Quanta cipher keys. Validation complete. The holo flared to life, not with images of ships, but with an entire hemisphere of a planet. Kyle stepped in from the adjoining console. Is that Tau Ceti? The globe rotated, its oceans a deep steel gray under a white sun. Cities shimmered like clusters of circuitry across the land masses. A thin red line pulsed across one continent, then another, then another. Ilara's voice was tight. These aren't borders, they're front lines. Data tags bloomed over each red vector, fleet positions, troop concentrations, artillery grids. The largest cluster pulsed over a coastal megacity, Vallis Prime. Kyle leaned forward. They've surrounded their own capital. She magnified the image. Along the western approach, icons marked red halo fleet carriers, their orbits staggered, for overlapping strike coverage. Inland, blue markers, the defensive arrays of the consortium of Tau, were falling back in staggered lines. Static crackled as the overlay updated in real time. This isn't archival, Kale said. It's live. Ilara's chest tightened, which means they have a feed as good as ours, and they've just shown it to us. The map flickered, zooming to population density layers. Civilian evacuation routes glowed faint green, many already cut off. Numbers scrolled in the margin, casualty estimates, infrastructure loss percentages. Kale's voice dropped. They want us to see the cost. She didn't reply. She was already tracing the orbital arcs of the red halo strike groups. Each path converged on Vallis Prime in less than 16 hours. Kale broke the silence. This is war, Ilara. It's already started. She nodded slowly. And they're sending the play-by-play through our lens. The feed shifted again, now a split view. On one side, the planetary map. On the other, a tactical overlay of Tau Ceti's orbital space. Red arcs rising from the surface met red arcs descending from high orbit. In the center of the convergence point was a single gold-marked ship icon. Kale pointed. That designation, it's a command carrier. Flagship, Ilara confirmed. Probably Red Halo Fleet's high command for the theater. Kale's eyes met hers. And if that ship goes down, so does Vallis Prime. Outside the viewport, the sun was nothing but a dim coin. Yet the gravity of what they were seeing pressed heavier than anything in the station's hull. Ilara saved a local copy, locking it to a drive without network access. We need to decide who sees this, and soon. Kyle glanced at the station. Clock. The courier's ETA was down to 0328. She knew what he was thinking. The same thing she was. This map wasn't just a report. It was a message, an invitation, or a warning, and whichever it was, it had just dragged Earth into the war. 22. Helios Apex Station, Systems Analysis Vault. The map feed from Tau Ceti E still hovered in the background, but Ilara's attention was fixed on the diagnostics scrolling across her console. Look here, she said, pointing to the telemetry curve. The SGL array core isn't just collecting light, it's bending the focal plane back toward the source, in microbursts. Kale frowned. Backscatter? Not just backscatter, she said. This is coherent return. They've modulated the lens alignment to turn the whole array into a two-way optical relay. He stared at the schematic, the massive array, each segment calibrated to nanoradian precision, now subtly oscillating beyond its programmed range. That would take a full model of our optical tolerances, Kale said, and control access to our attitude thrusters. They have both, Ilara replied, and they're not guessing. The error margin is better than our own calibration suite. The holo switched to a spectral breakdown of the incoming photons. Narrowband spikes appeared at precise intervals. Too regular to be natural. This is how they're sending data back, she continued. Every spike carries embedded packets. Our relay software thinks it's noise from the solar corona, so it ignores it, until someone in the loop reads the hidden channel. Kyle's eyes narrowed. If they can send this to us, they can send our data to anyone. Ilara didn't answer right away. She keyed up the station's own outbound logs, high-res, surveys of the outer planets, comm relays with Earth, encrypted telemetry from Aurora Ridge, every byte routed through the same optical path. He exhaled sharply, which means, if they wanted to, they could forward targeting data, defense coordinates, locations of our orbital assets. And we wouldn't even know, Ilara said quietly. Silence settled in the vault. Outside the thick hull, the sun's gravity still pulled the light of Tau Ceti into perfect focus. But now Ilara could almost feel that light looking back at her, not as an image, but as intent. Kale broke the stillness. We've been using the SGL to watch them. The whole time, they've been learning how to watch us. 1146, Helios Apex Station, Command Deck. A new alert shimmered across the main display, not from Aurora Ridge, not from ESC. Backscatter data burst. Source, Tau Ceti. Ekael was already leaning in. This packet's different. Compression. Ratio is massive. They're cramming more into fewer photons. Ilara initiated the decrypt. The quanta cipher keys spun in the buffer, peeling away layers of interference until the hollow flickered into life. This time, it wasn't maps. It was a room, dimly lit, circular, with walls that seemed to pulse faintly, organic architecture, alive with veins of light. Around a central table stood 5 figures in armor unlike anything she'd seen before, their helmets resting beside them. Kale's breath was audible. Consortium of Tau High Command. A 6th figure entered. Unmistakable. Commander Lise Harvek. The translation overlay struggled at first, scattering partial words, then settled into flowing Terran text along the bottom of the image. Front collapsing on Vallis Prime. Without reinforcement, planetary control will fall within 2 rotations. One of the armored figures, a tall, silver-eyed elder, spoke, and the overlay kept pace. The only viable offset, an ally beyond the system, capable of challenging the Red Halo fleet's supremacy. Ilara and Kale exchanged a look. Another. Voice cut in. Younger, sharper. Criteria met. Long-range observation confirmed. Technological parity within acceptable deviation. Political fragmentation exploitable. Kale's voice was low. They're talking about us. Harvek leaned forward in the hollow, his expression hard but deliberate. Earth. 11.9 light years, already watching, already aware. The elder inclined his head. Then the decision is made. We extend the accord. Ilara stiffened. The accord? Kale pulled up a quick match from the Xenolinguistics database. It's a treaty term, Celestial Accord, historic alliance pact between independent systems. It binds military and economic aid in mutual defense. She absorbed that, eyes still on the feed. They're not just warning us. They're offering us a seat in their war. On screen, the figures began to arrange data hollows, fleet schematics, orbital topography of Tau Ceti A, and what looked like logistical routes. Every path was annotated in both consortium glyphs and a rapidly adapting Terran overlay. They're customizing this for us, Kale said, making sure we can read it without a translator. Ilara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. This isn't information sharing. This is recruitment. The packet continued. Projected strike windows, reinforcement timelines, resource commitments. A column of figures in the corner estimated travel times for interstellar couriers and, more chillingly, projections of Red Halo fleet's expansion. Vectors if Vallis Prime fell. One arc swept toward an amber highlighted dot. Earth, The feed froze on Harvek's face. His silver eyes locked forward. The translation overlay filled in his words, "Choose now." The holo collapsed into static. The packet's metadata showed a single transmission flag. One-time window, 9 hours. Kale spoke first. If ESC sees this, they'll use it as a military pretext. If UDSO sees it, they'll want open talks. And Red Halo will intercept before it happens. Ilara didn't move. The offer was real. The clock was ticking. And for the first time, the war on Tau Ceti A felt like it was already brushing the edges of Earth's sky. 8. Helios Apex Station, Observation Deck. The tactical feeds were quiet for the moment, suspended in standby. Below the wide viewport, the faint arc of the sun shimmered. A dim ember at this impossible distance. Ilara stood with her hands on the rail, eyes unfocused. She could still see Commander Lyse Harvek's face in her mind, the words, "Choose, now," hanging in the air like a pressure drop before a storm. Kale joined her, carrying 2 cups of recycled brew. He set one beside her without speaking. She took a slow sip. "You believe him?" Kyle kept his gaze on the viewport. "I believe he's desperate. That doesn't mean he's lying. They're asking us to pick a side in a war we don't understand," she said. "And once we pick, there's no way back." His voice was calm. "Wars aren't about understanding. They're about surviving. And if his projection is right, the Red Halo fleet's expansion arc puts Earth in their path within decades." She turned to him. "You think we should help?" "I think," Kale said, meeting her eyes, "we should decide based on more than what Strath or Maya want. We've seen both sides play politics while the station is compromised. Neither of them can claim the moral high ground right now." For a moment, the hum of the station was the only sound. The isolation felt sharper than usual, not just the distance from Earth, but the sense that they were alone in deciding something far bigger than themselves. Ilara looked back out at the stars. "When I signed on for Project Eventide, I thought the hardest part would be surviving the boredom." Kyle smiled faintly. "You were wrong." She almost smiled back. Then her expression hardened. "If we act without orders, we'll be seen as traitors to someone. If we do nothing, we could be condemning billions on another world and maybe our own." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then maybe it comes down to trust. Do you trust him, Harvek?" Ilara hesitated, then answered softly, "I don't know, but I trust you." Kale held her gaze for a long moment before nodding. Outside, the cold light of Tau Ceti shimmered faintly, as if waiting for their answer. The command center was silent, too silent. Rows of holographic displays floated above the operators' desks, each showing fragments of encrypted transmissions from the Tau Ceti observation grid. Leora stood in the middle, eyes fixed on the main screen as the last file in the incoming data package began to render. At first, it was just noise, a wash of static and warped light, as if the image had traveled through centuries of cosmic interference. Then, the distortions fell away. A figure emerged. It was not human. Its silhouette was lean, its skin iridescent under a pale lavender sky. Behind it stretched a horizon of shattered towers and drifting dust. The alien's gaze was steady, almost, piercing the lens, and then it spoke. The voice was distorted, but the translation AI caught enough. "Leora Kane." The room erupted. Technicians leaned forward, murmuring disbelief. Leora's chest tightened. That name wasn't just mentioned. It was summoned. The alien repeated it, slower this time, as though ensuring she could not mistake the call. How? Could they possibly know her name? She had never been to Tau Ceti A. She had never even left Earth's orbit. The feed cut abruptly, the screen returning to static. Leora realized every eye in the room was on her. Somewhere deep inside, she felt it, a shift. She was no longer just an observer of this war. She was now in it. 2 UTC, Helios Apex Station, Operations Deck. The alarms didn't sound like normal system alerts. They were deeper, heavier, a rolling tone that seemed to vibrate through the station's frame. Kyle glanced up from the linguistics console. That's not ours. Ilara checked the comm panel. The global status board, normally a calm mosaic of greens and blues, was a smear of flashing amber. Global Comm Priority Alert Earth Strategic Net. Offline Orbital Defense Grid disconnected. Aurora Ridge uplink compromised. She exhaled slowly. It's everywhere. Kale swiveled his chair. Everywhere? Not just Earth. Mars Relay, LunaNet, even the Bastion 4 tactical cloud, all dark or degraded. The main holo flared as Director Maya Chen pushed through on a low-band emergency channel. Her face was jittering with compression artifacts. Helios Apex, be advised. Strategic comms worldwide are under active assault. Vector analysis suggests a correlation with your last inbound backscatter burst. Kale froze. She's saying, it's coming from here? Maya's voice cut again, sharper now. Not from you. From the signal path. Something in that gravitational lens feed is seeding a 0-day across the network. Firewalls are folding in seconds. The feed degraded, her voice swallowed by static. Seconds later, a new channel lit. Admiral Rourke Strath. No preamble. Apex, lock down the array core, physical isolation, now! Ilara's hands hovered over the command keys. If we isolate, we lose all incoming data, including Harvek's channel. That's the point, Strath snapped. Kill the feed before it kills our infrastructure, Kyle muttered, or before it says something you don't want heard. Strath's eyes narrowed, but the channel cut before he could respond. Through. The viewport. The sun was a faint ember, the SGL focal point an invisible knot somewhere far ahead. All their data, all the alien transmissions, they came through that knot. And now, maybe, so did the virus burning through humanity's most guarded systems. Aurora Ridge tried again. Patchy, distorted. Financial nets, satellite controls. Even climate reg arrays are blinking out. Civilian grids next. We're moving to blackout protocols. Kale's jaw tightened. If this is deliberate, they're not targeting military first. They're targeting trust. Collapse the infrastructure. Collapse the governments. Ilara brought up the inbound data diagnostics. The spike signatures from the last burst were still there. Tight, precise, and utterly foreign. But now she could see something else, nested inside the carrier. Packets that didn't belong to any known format, riding piggyback on the photon stream. She whispered, "This is more than observation. They're in our nervous system." A low tremor ran through the deck. At first, she thought it was just her pulse. Then the hull sensors confirmed, micro-vibrations from automated systems engaging in unison. Kyle looked at the readouts. Why, are the Aegis drones powering up? They're not on defense cycle, Ilara said. No, he replied. They're syncing with something. She didn't need to finish the thought. If the signal could burrow into comm grids across the solar system, it could just as easily hijack autonomous defenses. The status board blinked again, fresh red across half the screen. Entire regions of Earth were dropping off the network. Ilara felt her throat tighten. We're watching the first minutes of a war. Kale's voice was quiet. Question is, whose? The station's internal clock ticked over. 1309 UTC and... Somewhere, beyond the glare of the sun, the lens kept bending light toward them, steady, relentless, unstoppable. 2. Outer Defense Perimeter, 113. Astronomical units from Earth, near the heliopause. The dark emptiness beyond Pluto's orbit was no longer silent. Swarms of autonomous combat drones streaked through the void, their ion trails forming ghostly ribbons of blue light across the black canvas of space. Each machine was little more than a weapon core wrapped in armor, guided by an AI brain built for one purpose: kill before being killed. From the command deck of the Vigilant Horizon, Commander Jalen Varys watched the tactical overlay bloom with red and blue markers. The red belonged to the Martian Defense Pact's drone fleet, sleek, needle-shaped machines optimized for speed and piercing armor. The blue marked the Terran Strategic Guard's defenders, slower but bristling with short-range particle cannons and adaptive shields. Somewhere between those converging formations was the SGL station, and whoever gained control of it could dictate the future of Earth's contact with alien life. Multiple hostile squadrons on intercept course, the tactical officer announced. Estimated time to weapons range, 4 minutes. Jalen's jaw tightened. This was no drill, no negotiation. The first wave of drone strikes would decide whether they could hold position long enough for their infiltration team, Marin Quill and her partner, to reach the SGL core. If the enemy broke through, the station's systems could be captured, overridden, or destroyed outright. Out on the perimeter, the first clash came without fanfare. Hundreds of drones fired at once, beams of coherent light slicing through the black. At these ranges, there were no tracer arcs or visible projectiles, only sudden blinding flares as a unit's reactor breached. The vacuum swallowed the shock waves, but the violence was no less real. The Vigilant Horizon's defensive AI coordinated counterfire, targeting not individual enemies but patterns, anticipating where hostile formations would shift seconds before. They did. It was like playing chess at the speed of light, each move costing millions of credits in hardware and lives. Jalen toggled the fleet-wide channel. "Hold the line. We're not here to win every skirmish. We're here to keep them off that station. If they want it, they'll have to burn through us first." Several kilometers away, a Martian interceptor drone slammed through a defensive picket, its hull shedding ablative plating as it accelerated toward the SGL docking array. A pair of Terran drones intercepted, locking it in a spiral of mutual destruction. The flash was brief, but it lit the ice fragments of the Kuiper Belt like shards of glass under a cold sun. Back on the Vigilant Horizon, the tactical display was bleeding red. Even with equal numbers, the Martian AIs had evolved new attack heuristics, slipping past point defense systems as if they'd learned from every battle fought in the last decade. And above it all, the SGL station hung silent, massive, a black silhouette against the distant glow of the heliosphere. Inside, Marin and her partner would be hearing the muffled reverberations of the battle outside through the station's hull. Every second they had was bought with steel and blood here. In the outer dark, Jalen didn't know if they could hold. But he knew one thing: if they failed, there wouldn't be a second chance. Tau. Orbital Relay Station Theta 9, outer rim of Neptune, inside the strategic-level security zone. The station's interior thrummed with the deep hum of power. Conduits, every vibration echoing through the metal bones of the habitat. Lyra's breath fogged inside her helmet as she floated beside Commander Rourke, the only sound between them the faint hiss of suit oxygen. Outside the narrow viewport, the solar gateway lens, the SGL, hung like a suspended fragment of a dying star, its vast mirrors tilted away from Earth's watchful eyes. "Once we change the optical matrix, there's no going back," Rourke murmured, his voice low over the encrypted comms. "If Command intercepts this signal, they'll label us as traitors before the packet even clears the relay." Lyra's gloved fingers moved with precise care along the control surface, each panel lit in cascading blues as she bypassed the automatic authentication sequence. The SGL wasn't just a telescope. It was a directed array capable of compressing quantum data streams into coherent interstellar pulses. If the alien transmission was truly an offer of peace, then this was humanity's only chance to answer without being drowned out by the static of war. Through the station's hull, the distant crackle of engagement reached them. Not sound in the vacuum, but translated telemetry. Swarms of autonomous combat drones clashing at the system's edge. Every spike in the data feed reminded Lyra how little time they had before the chaos reached Neptune's orbit. She slid herself toward the auxiliary optics panel, tether line floating loosely behind her. "We're switching the lens orientation to phase alignment 7B, she said. "That's the only configuration that can piggyback on the residual alien beam without tripping the auto-defense protocol." Rourke's eyes narrowed behind his visor. "Phase 7B. That's a deep field orientation. We'll lose 27% coherence over distance." "Better than losing the whole shot," she replied, already pulling the manual override lever. The panel shuddered as the massive lens assemblies outside began to rotate, catching stray shafts of starlight. A faint red glow bled into the chamber, the alien beam's signature, barely visible in the human spectrum but alive in every other frequency. A warning icon bloomed across her visor. HUD, unauthorized alignment detected, security override. Engaged! The station's AI, Sentinel-3, had noticed. "Lyra," Rourke said, "it's flagging us." Then we go manual. She reached for the rotary input control, bypassing the AI's locking protocol with a physical key, a relic from before the automation upgrades. The system resisted, servos whining, but slowly yielded. The hum around them shifted pitch as the lens clicked into alignment, locking on the alien transmission path. "Signal window opens in 22 seconds, she said, checking the synchronization readouts. "We send the handshake pulse the moment it stabilizes." Rourke floated beside her, hand poised over the final transmission key. "If this works, Command will never forgive us." Lyra looked past him, through the viewport, at the cold sweep of the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond even the alien fleet signatures they'd detected, a mind was waiting. Not to conquer, not this time, but to speak. "Then let them hate us," she said. "As long as someone listens." The countdown ticked in her HUD. 10, 9, 8. The alien beam's amplitude spiked, like a voice clearing its throat across the void. They'd have one shot. If the handshake failed, the alien signal could collapse, and the warships gathering at the system's edge would take that as a final insult. 2. 1. Rourke slammed the key home. The SGL's mirrors flared, sending a tightly tuned burst of data back along the alien beam, a message only they would understand. "We accept peace." The light faded, and for a moment, all was still. No confirmation yet, no applause. Only the, quiet hum of a machine that had just changed the course of history or doomed them all. 42. Access, Corridor 3, SGL Receiving Station, edge of the solar system. The docking bay lights flickered in irregular bursts, the only illumination left after the AI had rerouted emergency power. Every strobe painted the corridor in sharp, cold lines, revealing drifting debris and frozen droplets of coolant hanging like glass beads in zero gravity. A deep mechanical hum reverberated through the structure, the AI's sentry turrets, coming online. 4 minutes until they lock out manual control, Quinn's voice came through Jalen's helmet comm, tight and urgent. After that, the defense AI owns every system in this sector. Jalen's suit HUD painted 3 red arcs ahead, automated defense drones, each armed with compressed gas railguns capable of tearing a hull in half. In zero gravity, one stray puncture meant rapid decompression and death. He pushed off a wall, body twisting gracefully to drift behind a panel of shattered bulkhead. The AI immediately recalculated, its targeting reticles sweeping toward him. He could almost feel its cold logic stripping away possibilities. "Sending decoys," Quinn announced. A cluster of micro-drones spun away from her forearm launcher, their heat signatures mimicking human life signs. For a heartbeat, two of the defense units swiveled toward the decoys, buying Jalen 3 seconds. He launched himself forward, one gloved hand grabbing a loose conduit to redirect his momentum. His boots missed a foothold, and he spun in the void, the walls blurring past. The AI seized the opening, one turret firing a burst. Shards of vaporized metal sparked against the wall inches from his visor. Jalen exhaled slowly, forcing his heartbeat down. If we keep playing chase, we lose. I'm going for the primary node. That's in the blind sector, Quinn warned. You miss your trajectory, you'll drift into the drone's kill arc. Then I won't miss. He pulled a mag cable from his belt, locking one end to a ceiling brace, then kicked off hard. The cable unfurled behind him like a silver snake, his body slicing through the corridor's dim air. At the last instant, he yanked on the cable, slingshotting himself into a maintenance alcove no bigger than a coffin. The AI adapted instantly, switching turrets to predictive fire. But in the alcove's shadow, his suit, camo engaged, blending his heat signature with the metal around him. One turret fired, then hesitated, its logic loop momentarily disrupted. Now, Quinn, she pulsed. A directed EM burst from her wrist module. The nearest drone spasmed, spinning aimlessly before drifting into a bulkhead with a muted thud. The remaining two reoriented, their barrels glowing as capacitors charged for a kill shot. Jalen ripped open a panel, revealing the AI's fiber optic. Trunk lines, glimmering threads carrying thousands of tactical calculations per second. He drove his plasma cutter into the bundle, the air filling with the acrid smell of burning insulation. 2 minutes, Quinn shouted. The AI responded, with brutal elegance, cutting off local gravity entirely. The sudden drift disoriented Jalen, sending his body tumbling. A turret shot skimmed past his shoulder, ripping a smoking hole in the bulkhead. He grabbed a cable, steadied himself, and jammed the final override chip into the trunk port. A piercing electronic tone flooded the comms. Then, silence. The turrets froze mid-motion, barrels still glowing but inert. The hum of the defense AI guttered out like a dying breath. Quinn floated into view, visor reflecting the faint glow of the SGL's core chamber ahead. Path's clear, she said, voice trembling with adrenaline. Jalen looked past her at the sealed bulkhead beyond. On the other side lay the interface chamber and the alien voice that might decide the fate of two civilizations. 9. Core Control Nexus, SGL Receiving Station, edge of the solar system. The final diagnostic tone echoed through the chamber like a heartbeat. Leora's hands hovered over the crystalline interface, each pulse of light beneath her fingers matching the rhythm of her own breath. Behind her, Koresh stood in the center of the gravitic circle, his elongated silhouette shimmering against the field emitters. The air smelled faintly of ionized silver, the scent of systems running at full quantum capacity. Final alignment lock. Engaged, Leora said, her voice trembling despite the rehearsed calm. Through the viewport ahead, the SGL array's 12 rings began to rotate in perfect unison. Thin arcs of energy bled across the blackness, lacing together into a lattice that seemed to bend the very fabric of space. A low, resonant hum filled the station, not mechanical, but something deeper, like the vibration of reality itself being tuned. Koresh tilted his head, the amber light in his eyes brightening. We are about to touch the breath between stars. His words carried that layered alien timbre, part voice, part harmonic frequency, as though another presence whispered alongside him. Leora swallowed hard. And once we do, there's no going back. History never goes back, Koresh replied, stepping closer to the console. His movements were deliberate, ritualistic, as though each step was a pact with something unseen. Only forward. Only through. The station's AI fed streams of data across the hollow screens, gravitational harmonic stabilizing, tachyon bleed within tolerance, temporal shear at 98% compensation. Every warning indicator had gone silent except one, a faint red glyph pulsing on the far panel. Leora ignored it. For now, the SGL rings flared, a deep ultraviolet halo invisible to most human eyes, but here, within the control nexus, filters translated it into a shimmering ocean of light. Outside, space seemed to fold inward, pulling shadows into impossible curves. The first threads of the gateway's event horizon began to weave. Koresh's voice deepened, resonating with the chamber's hum. Do you feel it? The corridor is opening. The ancient path between here and the outer veil. My people called it the Bridge of Dawn. Her fingers tightened on the controls. Linking primary core to the outer ring. On my mark. 3, 2. The moment she hit the command glyph, the entire station seemed to hold its breath. The light outside bloomed into a spiraling tunnel, not made of matter or energy, but of raw geometry, a living equation stretching toward the unseen. Koresh leaned forward, his tone almost reverent. It is awake. A deep, concussive tremor rolled through the deck. The viewport's frame shuddered. For a heartbeat, the lattice wavered, threads snapping and reforming in a dance too fast to follow. Somewhere far beyond the edge of human perception, something vast had noticed them. Leora's pulse thundered in her ears. The final lock indicator burned green. We're linked, she whispered. Koresh's alien gaze met hers. The harmonic undercurrent. In his voice swelled, almost a chord of triumph and warning. Then prepare yourself, Leora Quen, for the stars are about to answer. The hum rose to a roar, and the tunnel surged forward, straight toward them. 5:17, UTC, Global Strategic Communication Network, Earth Orbit and Aurora Ridge Ground Hub. The alert hit both networks at the same second. No encryption handshake. No diplomatic preamble. Just a raw, untagged packet that punched straight through every firewall like it already knew the key. In the control dome of Orbital Bastion 4, Admiral Rourke Strath stood over the tactical table, jaw tight, eyes fixed. On the projection blooming in midair, a star map unfolded, centered not on Earth, but on Tau Ceti E. Overlays lit up like arterial lines, each tagged in clean clinical detail. Target priority alpha, trajectory solutions, projected kill ratios. A plan. Not vague schematics. Not theory. A precise, step-by-step operational blueprint for dismantling the Red Halo fleet, down to the order in which the alien warships should die. Run origin trace, Strath ordered. Already tried, his comms chief replied. It loops back through the photon backscatter channel. The same route as the last alien transmissions. Strath's lip curled. They're handing us their enemy's throat, half a world away, buried under kilometers of Antarctic ice. At Aurora Ridge, Director Maya Chen watched the same data bloom across her main screen. Around her, the analysts of United Deep Space Observatory leaned forward, faces pale in the cold blue light. Maya zoomed in on the sublayer metadata. Strange. Alien glyphs interleaved with clean, human-readable tactical code. It wasn't a trick of translation. The aliens had formatted this for them. They know our language, whispered Kale Rian, standing just behind her. They know our weapons, Maya corrected. These plans assume access to Terran missile yields, swarm drift, drone specs, even ESC nuclear strike doctrine. At the far edge of the room, Ilara Vance stared at the pulsing icon in the corner of the projection. Authorization required. Execute order. She felt her stomach knot. This wasn't just intelligence. It was an invitation. Back in orbit, Strath's senior aides circled the table like sharks. This is decisive, one said. One strike and the war is over before it reaches us. Strath's gaze hardened. Exactly. Down at Aurora Ridge, Maya's voice cut through the tension. If we use this, we become executioners. This isn't defense anymore. This is annihilation. Kyle looked at Alara, searching her face. You know they'll push it through. Both sides have the same data now. The Hawks won't hesitate. Ilara's hands curled into fists. Then we'd better decide who speaks first. And louder. The screens kept pulsing, the timer ticking down in the corner. A global choice. 2 factions. One alien war hanging in the balance, and far beyond. At the edge of the solar system, the SGL array waited, still linked, still listening. The transmission channel flickered to life inside the SGL reception chamber, its curved walls shimmering with overlapping holographic feeds from both factions. Earth's representatives stood on one side of the projection field, the alien delegation on the other, separated only by the thin veil of quantum interference. Commander Kalen's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the strain of hours of deadlock. We've both seen the destruction our weapons can cause. If we proceed with this plan, neither side will survive intact. His gaze shifted briefly toward Dr. Ilara Vance, standing beside him. She met his eyes with the same unshaken resolve. The alien side, Envoy. Theron adjusted the crystalline badge on his chest. Your fleet has already positioned warheads around our staging zones. You speak of coexistence while your weapons track our ships. Ilara stepped forward. We armed ourselves because we feared you. You did the same for the same reason. But fear doesn't have to dictate what happens next. Her voice softened, drawing the room's focus. We've both lost people, friends, families. If we keep going, fear wins. Everyone else loses. Silence held for several breaths. The quantum field between them pulsed faintly. Each flicker, a reminder of the fragile connection holding the moment together. Kalen reached toward the console, lowering his weapon signature from active to standby. It was a gesture so small, yet in that instant, it felt like tearing down a wall. Envoy. Theron's eyes narrowed, weighing the choice. Then he mirrored the motion, his own fleet's readiness levels dropping on the shared display. Around them, the diplomatic aides murmured, half in relief, half in disbelief. This isn't surrender, Kalen said. It's survival, for all of us. And for the first time, there was no rebuttal. Only the faint hum of the SGL's core and the unspoken acknowledgement that something had shifted, not just in strategy, but in trust. 17. Outer orbital ring above Earth. The flash came first. It wasn't a flare or the burn of a missile. It was a silent, blinding sphere of white that swelled outward in less than a heartbeat. Every shadow on the station snapped into nothing as the detonation's light consumed them. Then came the wave. The hull screamed. A tremor shivered through the station's frame, vibrating along every beam and joint until it reached the command deck. In 0G, the shock hit differently. Not the rolling quake of a planet, but a bone-deep lurch, like the entire station had been punched by a giant fist. Panels shook loose. Shards of composite plating drifted, catching the light of the dying, flare as they spun away. Inside, alarms howled. Red strobes painted everyone's faces in pulses. The comms board lit up with cascading errors. In the viewport, a chunk of the outer docking ring peeled away, floating into the void like a torn rib from some wounded beast. Beneath it, Earth glowed silently, too far to hear the death that was happening here. Structural integrity down to 62%, a voice cracked over the intercom. We're losing the east spine. And then, the clock appeared. A bright red countdown on the main display. 0741. 0740. That was all the time before the comms relay, already fractured, would tumble out of alignment and break contact with both fleets. Every second ticked like a hammer blow. The link with the alien flagship flickered, distortion smearing voices into static. Jace slammed his palm against the console, his breath fogging the visor's edge. "We don't have time to debate anymore," he barked. "Either we transmit now, or everything we've built dies here." Outside the viewport, the debris field expanded, tiny silver motes scattering like glitter, each one a fragment of the orbital station's bones. Farther off, a secondary fireball bloomed where a munitions cache had been, its orange halo fading into the black. The deck pitched again as another support strut tore free. Tools and data pads drifted in the cabin, bouncing off walls, their gentle collisions absurdly calm compared to the chaos outside. But the countdown kept falling. 06:12. 06:11. The crew's eyes told the truth. There was no fallback plan, no backup relay. This was the only channel left, and once it was gone, the choice, peace or annihilation, would vanish with it. 59. Command Module, SGL Receiving Station. The comms console flickered, half its interface fractured into static from the earlier blast. My reflection hovered in the cracked glass, pale, eyes ringed with exhaustion, a faint tremor in my jaw. Every muscle screamed for me to hurry, yet I forced my breathing into an even rhythm. "This is Commander Rylan Vance. Last operational. Voice channel from SGL station." My voice sounded alien in my own ears, distorted by the damaged transmitter. I leaned closer, as if proximity alone could bridge the light minutes to those who needed to hear. "You'll have your coordinates and the access keys to neutralize the defense array. But this—" My throat tightened, and I steadied it with a slow exhale. "Comes with one binding condition. No more fleets, no more blockades. A peace. Charter signed in both blood and ink. Break it, and the keys dissolve." Somewhere in the static, I imagined their silhouettes. Generals, diplomats, old rivals, leaning forward. The words felt heavier than the void outside. I wanted them to feel that weight. A low hum from the structural supports trembled through my boots. I could taste metal in the air, a warning that our atmosphere scrubbers were losing the fight. "I'm not asking," I added, my gaze locking on the blinking red lens. "This is the only way either of us survives the next decade." The signal strength bar dipped once, twice. For a moment, I thought the line had already gone dead. My lips moved. Before my mind could doubt, "End the war, keep the peace, or let the stars judge you." I cut the channel before they could respond, letting the silence fold in like a closing hand. The countdown still ticked in my peripheral vision, each second hammering home the truth. I might never know if they heard every word, but the message was out there now, racing through the cold, unstoppable. The SGL link flickered, then died. In the sudden silence, the last fragment of data stabilized on the screen. An image frozen in time. It showed a sky unlike any they had ever seen. Soft lavender clouds drifting across a pale gold horizon. The light was warm, almost liquid, spilling over gentle hills and a shimmering body of water. Birds, or something like them, wheeled lazily above. For a moment, it felt like looking through a window into peace itself. Breaths slowed. Shoulders eased. In the control room, no one spoke, afraid that sound might shatter the fragile illusion. But then, in the lower right corner of the frame, a shadow emerged. Not a cloud, not a mountain. It was moving. The black silhouettes sharpened as the image auto-corrected. Angular hulls, metallic spines glinting in alien sunlight. A fleet. Dozens of warships, closing in formation, their paths converging toward the serene coastline. A single glimmer pulsed on one ship's hull, the cold blue of weapons primed. Around the table, the moment of calm cracked like thin ice. Hands clenched into fists, eyes darted to the dead SGL indicator as if willing it back to life. But the link remained cold. No one knew if this was hours away, or already unfolding. Outside the station, the stars burned silently, indifferent to the fragile lines humans drew between war and peace. And in the stillness of that alien sky, the shadows kept advancing. The last image faded into static. That tranquil sky lingered in my mind, a fragile promise of peace. But in the corner of the frame, those distant warships kept closing in. I realized peace was never permanent. It was only borrowed time. If this story moved you, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these worlds alive, and the next chapter might be the most important one yet.